Welcome to the Torqueconomics weekly automotive update leading up to the 8th of June 2025. Let's dive right into our releases and discontinuations monitor. Starting off with another iteration of the Aston Martin Valkyrie, this time named the LM. The LM Valkyrie is a track-only vehicle and named after the LMH race car competing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans over the weekend. It boasts 697 horsepower in line with its race car counterpart. Price is expected to be in the range of $7 million, with production limited to 10 units. The keen viewer will know that Aston Martin already did a track-only version of the Valkyrie built a couple years back, limited to 25 units. However, that one was not in line with any race car, hence it boasted more than 1000 horsepower, but was also somehow significantly cheaper at $4.2 million. Regardless, I will probably stick with the LEGO version of the base Valkyrie, coming out in August for $65 US. It even comes with folding doors. Moving on, Caterham is releasing an edition of its 7 to celebrate the end of the brand's use of the 1.6 litre naturally aspirated Ford engine it has used for over 50 years. The car, which is called the 310 Encore, will be available in 7 colours, and production is limited to 25 units priced at £40,000 in the UK. Hyundai is planning the release of another electric N car, and it is going to be based off the Ioniq 6 sedan. The normal Ioniq 6 sedan features up to 320 horsepower, whilst the N version will reportedly have up to 641. Whilst nothing crazy like the Xiaomi SU7 Ultra or the Tesla Model S Plaid, it will still likely be a respectable electric performance car. The current Hyundai electric N lineup consists of a concept car called the Vision 74, which is rumoured to have a production version sometime in the future, as well as the well-reviewed Ioniq 5N SUV. Over to America, the official price tag for the Mustang GTD has finally been revealed, and it is not cheap, $328,000, and that is before any options. In a window sticker which appeared on various online forums, it shows that the final price of one example being just under $340,000 delivered. However, perhaps given its American record-breaking 6 minute and 57 second time at the Nürburgring, the performance justifies the price tag. Also from Ford is the new F-150 called the Lobo. It looks to be in the same vein as the old F-150 SVT Lightning, but slightly tamed down. For about $60,000, which is $20,000 more than the base model, you get a 400 horsepower V8 as well as an appearance makeover. Dual exhaust tips are featured along with a Lobo driving mode, much like the Maverick Lobo released earlier this year. Moving over to Audi, the new Q5 and SQ5 are releasing as an iterative update to the previous generation. Still using the same engines, the biggest change comes from a dual clutch transmission as well as an interior change. The controversial new LD Signature interior features a flat badge as well as more screens. Talking about controversial, BMW is continuing with its XM SUV. Only 2 trims are available with this new update, a V6 version called the 50e or a V8 version called the Label. The Label boasts 738 horsepower, and whilst it's impressive in its own feat, I still think the car looks too much like the pig from Angry Birds to justify its $200,000 US price tag. BMW was also caught testing its new iX3 SUV this week. The iX3 is part of a new generation of BMW design language called New Class. There is little known at this stage to make a more comprehensive analysis. The competitor Mercedes is doing the same thing, as it was caught testing a GLC EV which is in the same class. The GLC EV takes a much more traditional approach to design compared to its older Mercedes EQ counterparts, which have been discontinued. Also in electric SUVs, the Model Y is set to add a 7-seat option. The third row is looking like it will be extremely cramped. Moving over to China, XPeng is releasing a new SUV called the G7. Although the SUV itself is nothing special, I find the AR HUD included to be quite the innovation. Much like the heads-up display available in many cars today, it displays key information such as speed for convenience. However, what is different about this AR integration is that it also provides GPS directions imprinted directly on the roads ahead. I expect this might be the way to go forward in the industry, maybe even further replacing the dashboard completely. Also new in infotainment was the new Apple OS 26 update, rolling out across all its devices including CarPlay. It features a new design language called Liquid Glass, but more importantly for CarPlay, Information panels such as flight details will be shown as part of the screen if desired. Notifications and calls will also now be much less distracting, as they become small pop-ups covering only a small portion of the screen real estate. Alright, now we move on to the headlines of the week. Starting with motorsports, it was both the week for the annual 24 Hours of Le Mans, as well as the F1 Canadian Grand Prix this week. In Le Mans, Ferrari took home the third consecutive win in the hypercar class with the AF Corsa's 599P. It was a hard-fought victory, as the Penske Motor Porsche 963 finished 14 seconds behind after 24 hours of racing. In the LMP2 class, Inter-Europol competition took home the victory in a Oreca chassis. And in the LMGT3 class, Manthey's Porsche GT3 claimed the title. Over in the Canadian Grand Prix, Russell won whilst Norris crashed into the back of Piastri. Despite this, the McLaren still lead the driver championship by a large margin. In addition, F1 had made the decision that Madrid will replace Imola in the 2026 calendar. Imola was introduced in 2020, whereas Madrid last hosted an F1 race all the way back in 1981. The 2026 Madrid race will take place between the 11th and 13th of September next year. Now moving on to some track records. Acura is aiming to break the front-wheel drive track record at Pikes Peak with a 360 horsepower K20 engine Integra Type S. The hill climb attempt will happen within a couple of weeks. Interestingly, the previous record was also held by Acura with a much heavier but also more powerful 500 horsepower Acura TLX. Acura also brings an Integra Type S HRC as a pace car. The HRC is an upgraded version of the road car, which may launch as a commercial offering in the near future. Also this week, Xiaomi has officially broken the record for the fastest production electric car with its SU7 Ultra. The $74,000 sedan has managed to not only beat the Porsche Taycan Turbo GT by 3 seconds, but also the $2.2 million Rimac Nevera by 0.34 seconds, landing a time of just under 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Whilst not as mind-breaking as the 6 minute 46 time set by the prototype last year, it is still an impressive feat for such an affordable performance car. The SU7 Ultra comes with all the creature comforts of a family sedan. Sadly, the SU7 Ultra is only available in China for the foreseeable future. Now touching on autonomous cars. Due to a recent fatal accident involving none other than Xiaomi's self-driving aids, China regulators are now seeking to slow down the rollout of autonomous driving. Despite this, they are still ahead in terms of robotaxi adoption, just now with more rules and regulation to safeguard its development. The regulatory scrutiny surrounding self-driving is not a China-only issue. Tesla is objecting the release of its self-driving records to the public by the city of Austin. A decision is likely to be made within the next week. Over on the other side of the US, multiple Waymo vehicles have been vandalized in the recent LA protests. Unfortunately, the problem with this is that the battery produces a toxic fume when set ablaze. This begs the further question for the safety of the public in terms of self-driving vehicles and their ability to react to abnormal situations. Now into financial news. The chairman of Geely, which owns Volvo, stated serious overcapacity in the auto industry. This is especially true in China, where over a dozen of EV manufacturers have crowded the space in a short time frame, and are now facing a price war. In a more global scale, this means that over the medium to long term, many car brands will falter. Signs of supply outstripping the demand are perhaps best seen in the reduction in manufacturing. For example, this week, Stellantis have started voluntary redundancies in Turin, which produces Fiat 500s. Marelli, an interior supplier for both Nissan and Stellantis, has filed for bankruptcy. This is a follow-on effect from both Nissan and Stellantis' struggles, which happen to be the two worst performing large auto manufacturers at the moment. Polestar, Volvo's EV subsidiary and also a struggling brand, has decided that it will enter the French market in hopes of turning things around, perhaps due to France's increasing pressure to push petrol vehicles out of the nation. Also from France, multiple Tesla customers have filed a lawsuit as a group due to the political messaging Tesla is now associated with. I doubt the lawsuit will get anywhere, to be honest. What might get somewhere though is the legal dispute between the federal and state governments in the USA pertaining to the California EV ruling. Recently, a joint resolution of Congress blocked California's plan to cease the sale of internal combustion vehicles by 2035. Now, California, along with New York, New Jersey, Colorado, Massachusetts, and Washington, are filing a lawsuit to challenge the repeal by Congress. Lastly, in more lighthearted news, thieves in Detroit tried to drive a couple new Hummer EVs off a train, but did not get very far. I am not sure whether this speaks to the off-roading abilities of these Hummers, or whether these thieves are just not very bright. In the they just cannot make it right section, there were no notable recalls this week, which means that was all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and please look forward to weekly videos on an ongoing basis. On that bombshell, goodbye.